Oh, yeah. Anyways, welcome to Lunch and Learn here with our coach, Bruce Grant, and myself, Juan Curiel. And today we're going to talk about the 6 steps to help you make better sales and to live a more successful life. And once again, our first one is attention. And we talked about attention. We talked about the second one, interest. And today we're going to be going over desire. What is desire? So I just want to welcome Bruce Graham, our coach Bruce Graham, to the program. And thank you for being here, Bruce.
You're very welcome, Juan. Talk about desire. This is one of my favorite times of day, like to spend, a few minutes with you during the middle of the day, lunch and learn. So really, thank you for working with me to create this. It's beautiful. And you want to contribute to people. I want to contribute to people. So let's get started.
All right. So, one of the beautiful things about desire, I mean, we hear desire, we talk to our customers about desire, but what is desire? What is the desire? And Bob says that you would always attract the thing that you're focused on. What is it that you really want in your life? And that's the desire that you have. That's when you're going to start attracting the right things into your life, the things that you so deeply desire.
I think that we talked in like a past episode and somewhat briefly about the stick person. And this is like an operation of the mind, and the doctor who Thurman Fleet was the one who created the graphic illustration of the stick person. This doctor was into natural cures and other things like that. And he said, the workings of the mind are hard for people to kind of grasp because we don't have a visual image of the workings of the mind. Most people think the brain is the mind, but the brain is kind of like the physical storehouse of the mind, but the mind is the inner workings of the brain. And he said, for the purposes of helping people get a graphic illustration, he says, consider the possibility that you have a large circle and you draw a line horizontally bisecting it. And we'll say the top part of the mind is the conscious mind. And we're just going to take a couple seconds on this. We have 5 senses. We have sight, sound, taste, touch, and smell. And picture little antennas on the top of your head receiving signals all the time. You didn't actually ask for those signals, but you're always being bombarded by signals. And what's there that's entering your conscious mind is kind of what's always been there. Our parents bombarded us when we were babies and our brains were fully open. Then we went to school and the teachers bombarded us. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just the way that you receive signals. And some of them go into our subconscious mind. That's like the feeling part of our minds. And we act based on our feelings. We rationalize our choices, but our choices are predicated upon our feelings. So that's kind of how we go about our lives, that all these outside signals bombard us. You watch the news and we'll talk about Ukraine and we'll talk about shootings and we'll talk about COVID and the internet. So there's like this preponderance of heavy messaging. And for us to really create what we desire, which is the subject of today's conversation, we have to be very intentional about, first off, identifying what do I really desire? So Coach Juan, when you started working with Bob Proctor Institute, what did you find out that you really desired?
When I started working with Bob, like one of the first thing that I heard him mention, that I think I talked about this the other day, but when he mentioned that he didn't have a high school diploma, he didn't have any special education, I was like, I had to stop for a moment. I was like, and that's one of the things that I always desired. I always wanted to be in front of people. I always wanted to try to figure out a way to help people like myself, they're struggling out there. They know that there's something out there for them. And when I found Bob, I discovered my desire through Bob Proctor. And I remember going to the job sites. I remember being out there at the job sites, like working underneath that sun every single day for 10 to 12 hours a day. But my desire was to, one day I'm going to be able to do what Bob does. Thankfully, I get the opportunity to do exactly that today.
Yeah, well, God bless you. So just to be clear, your desire was to impact in a positive way other people, but not just one-to-one. You wanted to impact one-to-one, but beyond that, one-to-many. Would that be accurate?
Yeah. Yes, okay. Absolutely.
You had what we call a paradigm, which is a collection of habits, and beliefs. And so you had that collection, which was just your normal way. And at one point it was, I don't think I'm qualified to do that. But you've transformed yourself remarkably. How did you do that?
The first step is understanding, like Bruce was talking about the stick persons. You have to understand where the mind's at. I had so many doubts, worries, and lack in my life, but I didn't understand where none of that came from until I started studying with Bob and started studying the stick person. And once you get into the subject of the stick person, you're gonna see where everything comes from. Like growing up, your old programming. I always tell people we're programmed by default. When we come into this world where you're allowing the rest of the world to program your life the way that the world wants you to be. But you can override that. You can design your own future. Once I found that out, I was like, wait a minute, I could build my own future. I can build my own economy. And that's where everything started for me, Coach Bruce.
That's beautiful. So, Juan, help people understand, how did you do that? You made a choice. Did the results pop up overnight?
No, absolutely not. One of the things that Bob coaches every single individual, and you probably see this in every video that he does, he talks about having a goal card. And what's the purpose of a goal card? You have to be laser focused on your goal. Like, what is it that you really want? And Bob also teaches that it's the repetition of the things that you're focused on. That's how you're going to attract the things that you so deeply desire in your heart that you want to accomplish in your life. Laser focused goals. That's what we want.
Beautiful, Coach Juan. So I love it. You actually defined for yourself what you wanted, like a big want.
Mm-hmm.
You wrote a goal card, and through repetition, how many times a day do you read your goal card?
I don't know, maybe 5, 6 times. I mean, I don't do it once or twice. Like, I read my goal card. I do it in the mornings. I do it in the evenings, and I do it throughout the day. And what that helps me to do, Bruce, is to stay laser focused on your want. And then, so that when you go throughout your day, when you read your goal card in the morning, you go out through the day thinking of ways, how is it that I can accomplish my goal? The things that I really desire. And that's what's going to be playing in the back of my mind. Those are the things that I'm going to be attracting into my life that day.
You do a great job, Coach Juan. You and I were listening to a quick snippet of a video from Bob Proctor, and he was quoting something he got from Mark Victor Hansen. And he was one of the co-authors of Chicken Soup for the Soul. And he said, good goes where it's invited and stays where it's welcome. So you carved out for yourself your goal. You say it to yourself maybe 5 times a day at a minimum. So good goes where it's invited and stays where it's welcome. And you've been transforming your life so that you can transform other people's, or you can help transform other people's lives. Congratulations, Coach Juan. Yes.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you.
All right. What about #desire?
And you know what? We want to make a special invitation to our audience. If you ever want to come into one of our sessions, one of our classes, just put on the comments #desire. That's what's going to get you in the door. That's going to be your pass of You can come maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 times if you really want to study with us. You want to know what this is all about. I mean, how is it that we get in the results that we want in our life? And I don't know if Bruce mentioned this, but can you talk about your comics and like what's your desire behind your project on the comics?
Sure. Thank you for asking. Years ago, I was in a course of personal growth and development, and what was happening at the same time, like a local big newspaper, the Chicago Tribune, was running a series every day called Killing Our Children, for which the newspaper at the end of the year won a Pulitzer Prize. And it was chronicling the death of some kid under the age of 15 who had met a violent death. And I grew up in an area not far from where these kids are getting killed, but where I was, I could walk the streets anytime in day or night, and I was safe. I never worried about my safety. A lot of the work I did, I was a private investigator. I would go out to the south side of Chicago and the west side of Chicago. And I've been up in almost all the projects, but I would pick the time of day that I would go where it was safest. Yeah, and I got scared a couple of times. One time the elevator wasn't working, but what occurred to me was, and they tell you that the gangs are in the gangway, and sure enough, but there was some nice old man. He says, what's wrong, son? I was very young at the time. He says, elevator's not working. I said, yeah. He says, well, I know most everybody in the building, so you can come on down with me. And sure enough, there were about 6 or 7 young men down below. And they said, hey, Mr. Johnson, how are you, Mr. Johnson? He said, well, this boy here, he's with me, so we're getting safe passage, So there were moments. But again, I kept thinking where I grew up, I didn't have to worry about any of this. And it was very prevalent in the neighborhoods in Chicago, certain neighborhoods. I thought, this is not okay. And violence all of a sudden occurred to me. If I was on the north side of a street called Howard Street, which is the north border of Chicago and a suburb of Evanston. If I was in Evanston, certain things are not okay. Crime gets investigated, cases get closed, blah, blah, blah. So if you're going to go commit crime, commit it on the south side of Howard Street. Same thing on the west side. It's Austin Avenue. There's an area called Austin, high crime area. On the west side of Austin Avenue, it's a suburb called Oak Park. A lot of doctors live there because there's an Illinois medical complex not far away. Crime is not accepted. Now, that doesn't mean that some of it doesn't sort of bleed over, but it occurred to me that how people react is just a matter of their conversations. And I'm not saying it's as simple as that. You got to be able to eat and Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but I don't want to sound like a big communist, but at the same time, it's like there's so much abundance of resources in the world. If we would all only learn to share, we could all have great lives or not see the need. I got to acquire more. So all this violence and this, like I got to hoard it and I got to steal it and I got to hit you over the head. It's like, no. So I thought, how do we get the message out that people could talk with each other? And, some people are old enough to remember Nancy Reagan. Her answer was just say no to drugs. But, most people just laugh at that. I wanted the kids from the neighborhoods saying what their solutions were to the issues of gangs and guns and drugs in their neighborhoods. So I gathered some young artists together. I got some art teachers. I'm not an art teacher, We gathered some donors together. And so we got money to fund our activities. We got money to publish. And the kids were in the newspapers. They were on TV. They got awards for being the most improved student in their school. So there was a lot of acknowledgement that they got. They got every year a donated booth at the Chicago Comic-Con, which was a big deal. They wanted to be amongst all those existing. Anyhow, I want, and I still want to make a difference for young people, for them to know that something happens in that moment between the stimulus, the event, and them choosing. There's a moment of choice. And I got that from Viktor Frankl, who's the Nazi concentration camp survivor. I was like, I want people to know you have a choice. And, you know, it's a major, major, major undertaking. By myself, I'm like just one little dot of what do you call it, water in the sea of possibilities. So I'm always looking for additional people who would like to participate and join. It's not just like my desire is I want to get this concept of making choices clear to people everywhere. So thank you for letting me have a moment on my soapbox.
You're welcome, Coach Bruce. And yeah, we make an invitation to anybody that maybe knows a little bit about comics or maybe wants to make an impact in the world and their society. Go ahead and contact us and we'll get back to you and we'll share the vision that Bruce has for his community, and maybe you can start doing something for your community. We want to get around like-minded individuals who want to make an impact, who want to serve at a higher capacity. That's what this is all about, serving others.
Right. And it doesn't have to be you. It could be your son, your daughter, your niece, your nephew, your neighbor down the street. If you're a teacher, you might have somebody who's a wonderful artist. And a lot of times artists are not very outspoken, but it's a way for them to actually get recognition for their talents and maybe create an opportunity for themselves down the line, you know. So we'd love to hear from anybody. Our next step, if you know anybody who does video animation, we'd love to have them contact us too to see if we can collaborate on some things. So thank you, Juan, for the opportunity.
Yes, Coach Bruce. And that's what it's all about. I mean, once you get into these coaching programs that we have, you get so many ideas that come to mind and you get to work with like-minded individuals like we just talked about. You get to work with some of our clients that maybe there's something there you can work from people. We have people that from different parts of the world that are working with us. So maybe there's some kind of connection that you can do with one of those individuals there. So you're welcome to, like I said, come and participate with us and come and meet some of those people that we're talking about.
And I love that you bring that up, Coach Juan, because Bob Proctor said it, and we all fully believe it. If your why is big enough, the how will come about. You don't have to know your how to begin to implement or get involved in your why. So please, you people out there, you got to have some why that you've been wondering about, you've been thinking about, and we'd love to talk with you to get your why out in the open.
Beautiful. Yeah, so that's what we have for you guys today. So once again, hashtag desire, and we'll get back to you and we'll get you in one of our events. So thank you, Coach Bruce, for being with me here today, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Sounds good, guys.
Thank you.